So the past week and a half has been absolute shit. So instead of dwelling and crying like I want to do, I'm going to talk about all of the things, all of the books, shows, movies, video games, all of the things that I have been loving recently that have made me forget about my problems, forget about my phone. Buckle up, get a warm drink, get a cozy seat, because this is probably going to be a long one. So before we get into the video, I would love to talk down in the comments your favorite things that you've read recently. What cozy games have you loved? What books have you loved? What genres have you been reading recently? Let's just talk about all of the things down below. So the first section, we will talk about books, then we'll talk about TV shows and movies, and then we'll talk about cozy games. I'll have all of the timestamps down below, so feel free to skip around as you wish. So several of the books on this list actually read the later books in the series recently, but I wanted to talk about the first book. So if you are unfamiliar with the series, you haven't started it yet, you kind of have a good starting point. So the first series that I think is definitely worth your time and has completely taken over my brain is the Gods and Monsters series, and the first book is the Book of Azreal. This follows Diana and Samkel. Diana is like a 1,000-year-old being who is a monster that's sort of akin to like a vampire. She drinks blood, all that kind of stuff, but she seems to be like a demon sort of thing. And she is indebted to a guy named Canon, who is exactly the type of thing that she is. He actually changed her, and she made a deal with him to make her this demon entity thing so that she could live out her life with her younger sister and protect her and all that kind of thing. In the beginning of the first novel, she is hunting down this relic, this ancient artifact for Caden, and trying to keep it out of the hands of this organization called the Hand. And they are this like government kind of organization that is a angel-like being that is in a direct enemy to Diana, Caden, and all of their people, because their world had a huge war, and then they ended up coming to Diana's world and taking it over, essentially. So they're enemies. And through some circumstances, she is forced to work with Samkel, who is Liam in the first one. She's forced to work with Liam, who is the god of those angel-like beings, and they are forced to work together to find this relic out together. And the first one, I will admit, and I think several other on this list fall into this category, quite slow fantasy romance, especially the first one, which is not something that I have liked in the past, but as I mature, I suppose, I'm much more willing to sit with characters and learn more about them, especially when the books tend to focus on mental health, PTSD, that kind of thing, which is very heavily featured in this book and the following books in the series. The things that I really loved about this, like I said, it's very slow, and a lot of the plot centers around them going from place to place to find clues about the Book of Azreal and try to hunt down this ancient artifact. But most of the story itself actually focuses on them becoming friends. This is an extremely slow burn romance. They do not do anything, I think, until like 70%, and there's only 1 or 2 sex scenes. They really, really have to get over this enemies thing. This is a true enemies to lovers story. Like, not just like giggly fun, he's my enemy, but he's so attractive, he's so hot, and I want to bang him kind of thing. But this is like they actually hate each other, and they slowly become friends through working through some of these emotionally hard and vulnerable parts with each other. Samkel is dealing with a lot of PTSD, a lot of survivor's guilt, a lot of trauma from having led his people through this war, and Diana is dealing with a lot of guilt and PTSD from the things that Caden made her do in the life that she had to lead, even though that's not really the type of person that she wants to be. And there is a lot of emotional depth, emotional connection between the two of them. And the chemistry between the two of them is electric from the beginning, even when they very clearly hate each other, don't like each other, whatever. The chemistry is insane. The banter is fantastic. The way that they meet each other, just like strike for strike, is just brilliant. I am now on the 3rd book in this series, and every single book in the series so far has been a 5-star, and I don't think this 3rd book is going to be any different. Every single book in this series has been perfect. The pacing, the characters, the world is so endlessly fascinating. You are getting this like slow drip of explanation about the world, and it's the perfect pacing for it. You're basically finding out this information at the perfect pace. And it's so beautifully woven into the plot in a way that's like, it's not an info dump at the beginning of the series of everything that this world has experienced. It's like a slow drip that really goes with the plot in a really, really well done way. So it's not necessarily dark in the romance. I think going into this series, I had this misconception that the romance itself, it was like a dark romance fantasy kind of thing. The story is very dark. It's very gruesome in a lot of like fantasy aspects. It's very dark, but the romance itself is not dark really at all. Like aside from the enemies sort of thing, there really is not a dark aspect. There's not a taboo aspect. There's not like consent issues. There's nothing here that if you're afraid of dark romance, I think that you wouldn't like. Like to me, this is the perfect epitome of a fantasy romance series. Like obviously everything could change. I'm on the 3rd book. Like the 5th one is coming out soon. So obviously everything can change. And I don't know if it ends at the 5th one or what, but it could change. But so far I'm 10% or I'm 20% through the 3rd one. The first one was perfect. The second one was perfect. And this one is just doing so well. So next up is a recent read for me. And it's actually a recent release as well. And that is Light Wielder. Now, I was very, very nervous going into this one because I had read Metal Slinger like a couple of months ago, and I freaking adored it. I loved it from start to finish. I thought it was so gripping. It is slow, like kind of like Book of Azreal. It is slow. It does have its slow moments, and it's much more involved in the character dynamics and the relationship between the two rather than the plot. So I was very nervous going into this one, and I had read reviews, like many, I would say like 90% of reviewers did not like this book. And I was so nervous going into it, and I was kind of like hyping myself up saying like, maybe it's just people that liked the first one okay, but then they went into the second one, it was like a massive disappointment, or maybe it's like the story and like it didn't end very well. You know, I just had a lot of concerns going into the book, but I was excited because of how much I had loved Metal Slinger. Before we talk about Light Wielder, let's talk about Metal Slinger. If you don't know, this is a fantasy romance, and it follows Bryn and Acker. And in the beginning of the first one, Bryn is from a place called Alaha, which is essentially a section of very small islands of houses built on the back of trees. And her people have been exiled to these islands by the country of Kenta, who is kind of like their overseer. And I think every couple of years, Alaha is allowed to attend a festival in Kenta to get supplies, food, make deals, kind of stuff like that. And it's a very important festival, not only for the people, but also for the government. And Bryn and her fiance and her best friend are soldiers. And so they're very excited to have leave, to go to this festival, to attend, to have fun, whatever. They get there and they end up getting into kind of a kerfuffle with some of Kenta's soldiers. Acker is actually one of those soldiers. So this creates a feud between Kenta and Alaha that kind of ruins everything. They get back to their kingdom, and Bryn's fiance, who is the son of the ruler of Alaha, comes to her and basically says, if you repent and ask for forgiveness against Kenta, then you will be forgiven as like my fiance. She refuses to do this. She does not want to do this. But the other option is that she will be essentially kicked out of Alaha, taken prisoner by Kenta. While she's making this decision, a soldier that was involved in the whole thing named Acker shows up and basically is like, we want to take Bryn back to Kenta with us. So they lock him up and they're making a decision. And for some reason, something about Acker and the whole thing like set this weird thing off in Bryn's mind. So she goes to Acker, helps him escape, and they get away on like this very small boat. End up having a romance, they end up having a relationship, they build a friendship, and a majority of the story is actually set at sea with them stranded. And then once they get onto Kenta land, they realize that there's some stuff going on with Bryn. Obviously, she maybe has some powers, and the story goes from there. The second one takes place 4 years after the end of the first one. The characters are separated. Acker is in Kenta, Bryn is in another place. And they are fighting each other after what happened at the end of the first one. They see each other again, and the story goes from there. I don't want to reveal too terribly much. Once that 40% mark hit, I was obsessed. They have this, again, electric chemistry, this fantastic banter. The connection between them is just so palpable. It makes any scene that they're in just so exciting to read. And so when the book is about their connection, their romance, their obsession with each other, all of that kind of stuff, I loved it. But that first 40% and like the last 10% is genuinely very, very messy. And I think the large issue that comes is that 4-year skip, because there's so much that the author could have explored with that 4 years that for some reason they decided not to. Obviously, I'm not the author. They can choose to write their story how they want, but I think that there was so much opportunity in those 4 years that we missed that made the beginning of this one just very confusing, very all over the place, and just really messy. And then the last 10% was just like 100 pages of a fight scene, which as a fantasy reader is not necessarily my favorite. I'm more of like a politicking kind of person. I like seeing magical creatures and things like that. I'm not like a big war fan. I would say for about 50% of the book, I didn't like the story. And then the rest of the 50% I absolutely freaking loved. So I did give this one a 3 star. Despite it being a mess, I flew through this book. Like, despite all of my problems with it, I still really liked it. Like, I still had fun reading it, except like that last 10%. Even though the first 40% was a mess, like, I loved reading it. It was fun. It was confusing, but it was fun to see how he got there. And then again, once they were once they were together again, I was just flying through it. Like, it was so good. That middle bit was so good. That middle bit was like a 5 star. But the rest of it was still like enjoyable, was still consuming. It was very readable. Like, that is what I would say. It was very readable. It made me forget where I was, what I was going through. It did all of the good things about a fantasy that I love so much. So I really have no complaints about it. Like, obviously, I just spent 10 minutes complaining about it. But ultimately, like, it did exactly what it needed to do. It distracted me. So next up is purely just a brain off. You're here for a fun time, not a long time or a time that necessarily makes sense kind of situation. And that is the first 3 books in the Villains and Virtues series, which the first one is Thrown in the Dark. I believe that this is a 5-book series, but the first 3 follow the same couple, and I've only read the first 3. So this follows Damien, who is a half demon and has his demon father is kind of like the demon overlord, and he's trapped in a crystal. And so the whole idea behind Damon's arc is that he is going to get his father freed from this crystal, and he thinks the way to do that is to kill the good king. And we have Amma runs into Damon in a dark alley when she is in his like demon lord city, because she is looking for a book on the undead for her own reasons. And through some circumstances, she ends up getting embedded with the crystal that Damon is going to use on the Good King. And so they have to go through the journey to get to the Good King and figure out what to do about this crystal and all of that kind of stuff. And so hijinks sort of ensue through the rest of the 3 books. I really liked these. I think I gave every single one in the original or the first 3 stars. There are things that you could definitely point out that are annoying, they drag out, they're kind of frivolous, but I think that this is the perfect, like I said, brain off story. It's the perfect nonsensical, messy, a little bit angsty and dramatic sort of story, and a lot of it is just meandering. A lot of it is like they have a plan to get to point A to point B, and it takes 3 books to get there because they're going on a ton of side quests. They're meeting so many random people, and you're seeing parts of this world that you wouldn't have necessarily seen if this was like a traditional they get to point B in the first book kind of series. And I thought it was delightful. Now, I did listen to the audiobooks for all 3 of these, and I don't necessarily know if consuming this with my eyeballs would have been as successful, but the audiobooks were great. And I absolutely adored the romance between Damon and Amma. Damon is convinced that he could never love. He's this broody guy, and Amma is the sunshine character. And I think their dynamic worked so well. Damon is reluctantly attracted to her. Not at first. At first, he's like, she's really pretty, but she's freaking annoying. And he is determined to hold this, like, scary demon sort of reputation that he has. But this series is very funny. It's very funnily written, and there's a lot of puns, and there's jokes, and it's just very, like, not serious at all. And so Damon is trying to hold this scary persona, and it just doesn't work, and Amma sees right through it, and so it's a delightful adventure story. It's not necessarily something that I would say you can, like, marathon. I think each book is quite long, and it is very meandering, but I think if you want something that's just not serious, very funny, has kind of an angsty romance, a very slow burn romance, very, 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 very slow burn. I don't even think they kiss until the end of the second one. Like, it's very slow burn, but it's a ton of fun, and I think it's a really good series for, like, the fall Halloween-y time, because you're seeing so many, like, demonic creatures or, like, witches, and it's just it's a fun series. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. That's exactly what you're looking for, and I think, like, this is the perfect option. All right, so next up is actually a bit of a change of genre, and that is A Curious Beginning. And this is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I am actually now on the 10th book, which is the most recent release, and I'm so in love with this series. I have given every single book in this series 4 stars, and the most recent one, number 9, I gave 5 stars. So the series is a little bit rough with the, I think, 6th and 7th book, perhaps, or 5 and 6. Those books are a little bit rough, but otherwise, this series is just outstanding. It's just good from page to page. Every part of it is good. The audiobooks are fantastic. All of the audiobooks are narrated by the same person. So if you were to, like, marathon all of the audiobooks, it just feels like one continuous series. And I kind of feel like these types of stories are meant for audio. But regardless, this is about Veronica Speedwell and her sidekick, I suppose, / love interest, Stoker. In the first one, A Curious Beginning, someone is trying to kill Veronica for some secrets in her past that are slowly unraveled through the first one and the rest of the series. And she has a family. She's basically been orphaned. She had aunts that took care of her, but she never knew her parents, and they eventually die, and she's forced to go off on her own. And she is a natural historian. She's a lepidopterist, which is a butterfly hunter, essentially. And she has a childhood friend or friend of the family that pops up and is trying to help her. In the midst of them escaping these people that want to kill her, she is left in the care of Stoker, who is another natural historian. He basically does taxidermy, and they are forced to work together to figure out who's trying to kill her and some secrets, and the story goes in a very fun way. Obviously, I'm 10 books in now, so the story looks completely different than it did in the first one, but these are just really good mystery adventure stories, and the romance in this is top tier. It's angsty, it's slow burn, again another slow burn, which is something I'm discovering about myself even more than I thought. But the way that Stoker is completely obsessed with Veronica, and Veronica just spends the whole time like fighting her feelings, is absolutely delightful. Stoker is this like gruff gentleman on the outside, but in the inside he's like this soft little lover boy that just wants Veronica to like love him, and their romance is so adorable, and the mysteries are very, very fun. So a couple of my favorites in the series had one that was like adjacent to Jack the Ripper. We had a cursed like mummy sort of Egyptian situation. Our most recent one was a dead body that was encased in wax, and just so many interesting plot lines, so many interesting mysteries, and they all kind of go together with this underlying story of Veronica's past and her relationship with Stoker in a way that, again, they're just perfect stories. I say perfect, like not all of them have been 5 stars, but I could not imagine a better way to write the series. Like I couldn't imagine things that they're missing. They just haven't had that 5-star feeling, if that makes sense. Except this last one. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this series, especially the audiobooks. They're very, very good. If you like mystery, if you kind of like a dark Victorian London kind of feeling with your mystery, I think you'll really love this. It's super fun. The characters are so endearing. I love Veronica. And yeah, there's a lot of themes explored in this that I love, like equality and women villains, villainesses, and all of it. Like Veronica fights back on a lot of stereotypes, and Stoker is like head over heels in love with her because of who she is, which I adore. So I think it's really, really strong. I really enjoy it. And I think if you're looking for like a fun mystery with a romance, definitely check it out. It keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better. The series is so good. So next up is a full-on, just a contemporary romance that I think everyone could enjoy, and that is Cowboy Casual. So this is like a small town cowboy romance, which is not necessarily my big thing. I'm much more of a fantasy romance reader, and when I like to read contemporaries, I don't like the small town kind of energy. But I had read a fantasy romance series by this author, and I liked it okay. I thought the romance was fun, but the fantasy aspects were a little bit weak. So I decided to pick up this one, and this follows single father Colt, who had a childhood friends to lovers romance with Blair, who is the heroine. In the beginning of the novel, Blair returns to her small town because of a failed engagement and a really tough relationship with her dad and her ex-fiance and all of that kind of stuff. She returns to the small town, and she's just kind of having to live with her grandmother and rediscover the people in this town and how she's going to sort her life out while she's kind of getting this respite in this small town. And of course, Colt is still there. He is now a single father, and he is the like everybody in town loves him, but he is kind of this gruff and silent guy. And they spark up a reluctant friendship again. She's forced to live with him temporarily while her grandmother's house is being fixed up. There is just a lot of like common tropey aspects to this story that I think make the story really, really fun. It's, again, nothing super emotional. It's definitely more giggly, a lot of banter, a lot of like tropey tension-filled moments, and not a ton of emotional connection. But I definitely still felt the connection between the two. It is a little bit based on the second chance aspect of the story, but what I oddly liked about this one is we don't really get a ton of flashbacks. But the flashbacks that we do get, this author does a good enough job establishing their relationship in the past that I could understand their connection in the future. And I appreciate that this second chance, we had like more focus on them in the future than their relationship solely relying on flashbacks. Another thing that I appreciated about the story was because Colt is a single dad, obviously his daughter is in the story, and oftentimes in romance with kids, I feel like the child is like a plot device to either keep the couple together or separate them. And I didn't feel that way with this one. The daughter felt like a realized character who played a part in the story, which I really appreciate. I would not say that this one is life-changing, but it's a good time, and it's a good, like, swoony romance that'll give you, like, all of the stomach aches, you know, the heartaches that you want, and the banter is perfect. So I definitely will be continuing this series, and I think it's a lot of fun. If you are looking for a contemporary to just breeze through, to like read in one sitting, I think I did read this in one sitting. I definitely recommend this one. Let's talk about TV shows, movies, all of that kind of stuff. First up, we have to talk about the newest season of The Challenge. It's season 42. It's called Cutthroats, and I love The Challenge. This is basically a rebranded version of Real World Road Rules, if you remember that from like the early 2000s. It's a reality TV show where a bunch of people are all living in one house, and they have to compete in these really, really like athletic and challenging challenges, and they're like voting each other off, and they have to compete 1v1 style to see who goes home. Love this show. I have watched every single season of it, I think. My partner and I recently we rediscovered it several years ago, and we have since gone back and watched all of the seasons, and this season has been so good. It has pretty much every veteran person that you would want, like all of the fan favorites, all of the ones that people love and would want to see compete, or just are really great competitors even if you don't like them as people. Rookies that I think are going to do very well and that I'm excited about. I think we're only maybe 4 or 5 episodes into this season, and it's shaping up to be a really, really good one. And something that I like about the challenge is it's really just like reality TV at its core, like challenge reality TV, where they're competing in challenges and you can sit down for the episode and the episode just flies by. By the end, you're just like, oh, I didn't even realize that it was like that close to the end. And if you like reality challenge TV, this is a great one. I have not found a single challenge reality TV show that is as good as this one. It's very good. And if you have watched it, let me know who your favorite challenge competitor is. My favorite is Cara. And then I also have been a little bit steeped, mired, obsessed, fixated on Twilight. I listen to the audiobooks while I hike, and I bounce between the Twilight audiobook and the Midnight Sun audiobook. And then a couple weeks ago, I decided to do a rewatch of the entire movie franchise and then reread the books. And so I've been a little bit like consumed by the Twilight series. I am now moving on to Eclipse, the book, at this point. And there is just something about this series. I went on an entire spiel about it in one of my recent vlogs that I'll link down below. There's something about this series that just brings immense comfort to me, that reminds me of why it's so good to be a reader, and why, like, cliche, campy media like this is so soul healing. Like, that sounds so dramatic, but the movies in particular are so campy and so just ridiculous that they're so fun to watch. Especially that first one. Like, the first one, in my opinion, is like peak teen media. It's just, the music, the cinematography, the acting, all of it reminds me that it's just so good to be alive. You know, it's so good to have these comfort things that just remind you of the more soft, warm parts of being human. And then I also recently started Bon Appetit, Your Majesty. This is a K-drama following a woman who is a world-renowned chef in 2025, and then she gets sent back to the Joseon era, and she is forced to become the chef of the tyrant king. I have only watched the first episode. It's like a limited series. It's only 12 episodes, and each episode is an hour long. I've spoken at length about how ADHD does not allow me to watch TV on the regular like that, so I have to like break it up into, 30-minute increments or whatever. But this first episode was tons of fun. Even like my first stretch where I was just watching the first 20 minutes, I was like giggling and having a great time. And I'm very excited to see where the season goes. I'm excited to see like the characters fall in love and unravel kind of the mysteries, because there seems to be a discrepancy with what we know about this era, like what the characters know, what the heroine knows, and what the truth is. And I'm excited to see all of the things. And then the last like movie TV thing that I want to talk about is actually something that I watched last night with my partner, and that is Voicemails for Isabel. This was just a random decision to pick up last night. We were looking for a movie, and we both were like, oh, we'll just watch like a rom-com or whatever, and it's on Netflix. This was like not your standard rom-com, like not just this kind of like messy, funny, but ultimately forgettable story. Like, this was really, really, really good. I cried like a baby multiple times. So this follows a woman who has a younger sister who is very, very ill and has been ill her entire life. The heroine's entire life, and obviously her sister's whole life. In the beginning of the movie, her sister passes, and this absolutely devastates the heroine. She is very used to living for her sister, to doing crazy stuff for her sister, going on dates and recounting the dates for her sister, and she calls her sister her soulmates and the person that she was supposed to live her life beside. And so this absolutely wrecks her. And she starts leaving these voicemails for her sister after she's passed away. And the hero of the story gets the new phone number of like that her sister had, and starts listening to these voicemails, and he is enamored with her. He loves her outlook on life. He's fascinated by her story, and so goes to where she lives, and they kind of have a couple of days together where they go and do all the touristy things, and they flirt, and they have a romance and all of that kind of stuff. And then of course she figures out the truth. And this was such an emotional story. The acting in this is incredible, especially the heroine. Like, her acting was so good. Anytime she started crying, I started crying. Like, anytime I saw tears well up in her eyes, I started crying. Like, this was so heartfelt, so emotional. And the majority of the story, yes, there is this romance, but ultimately it's about her kind of breaking out of this life that she's molded for herself to, make her sister happy and have things to tell her sister, and actually becoming what she wants and taking chances on herself. And the romance does resolve itself. It is a rom-com. They do end up together, all of those things. But by the end of it, I was like, I didn't know how I was going to like the romance, because obviously they had met under false pretenses, and so it made me view him as a little bit manipulative, because he was essentially like going into the romance with loaded dice. He already knew things about her to make her fall in love with him, and so it felt a little bit icky, but he redeemed himself, in my opinion, and by the end I was like, we're here, we're in love. I loved it so much. I genuinely, this is 2 hours, did not feel a minute of it. Like, there was a point where I was like checking the clock to see how long he had to redeem himself for, and I was like, holy shit, we've watched so much of this. But I was laughing. I think it's the most I've ever laughed at a rom-com. It's so genuinely funny, and the characters are fantastic. The acting is fantastic. The romance is so swoony, and it was just good. It was good. It made me cry. I want everyone to watch it. It was peak. So before we wrap up, because I have been talking for quite a while, I wanted to talk about some cozy games that I have finished recently or restarted recently that I think that you would really love and that any cozy gamer would love. So the first up is going to be a recommendation for my readers and my cozy gamers, and that is going to be Tiny Bookshop. This is a game that I actually played and finished at the beginning of the year, and I have since started a restart of the game. Like, the game is just so playable. It's not like a one and done sort of situation. Essentially, you are moving to this small island, like coastal town called Buxton, Bury by the Sea, and you have this little caravan with a bookshop on the back of it that you're toting around. So you get this to this small town, and you slowly are unlocking different parts of the town, and you're selling books to people. You're meeting the townspeople, you're learning what they love, and you're giving them book recommendations. And I think the thing that makes this very special for actual readers is that you're recommending real books to people. Like, the books on the shelves that you're recommending to them are real books. Some of your favorite books, recognizable books, books that you love, you'll probably find in this game. And it's not just like classics. It's like new releases. It's really popular romances or not so popular romances. It's like every genre is available there, and you'll have people that come in that want any genre. And so they'll give you tropes or genres or whatever that they want, and you have to find the perfect book for them. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's really niche, sometimes it's super easy, and you have just the book in mind as soon as you read their request. But I love it. And you're slowly building up your caravan, and you're decorating it, and you're getting more books, and you're learning like what part of the town likes what kind of books and what will sell well, and you're meeting the townspeople. And it's just an absolutely delightful game. It's hours and hours of content. It's just a wonderful way to escape into multiple hobbies that you might love, like multiple reading and, you know, playing video games, playing cozy games. The music is great. The animation is great. The townspeople feel so real and alive. And the recommendations or the requests are not like necessarily easy every time. So you do have to put your like little bookseller cap on. So it's just a fun game all around that I would give 5 stars. I think it's one of the best cozy management type games that I've ever played. It might be the best management game I've ever played. And I think any reader, cozy gamer would love it. And then the last game that I have to recommend to you is truly the epitome of the perfect cozy game. I have played it 3 separate times. I played it on my PC, I played it on my iPad, and then I played it on my PC again. Like, it's so good, and that is Cozy Caravan. You are working alongside your cousin, Bubba, in your caravan, and you're going around to these different villages to help them prepare for the Whiz Bang Festival. And all of the villagers need different things. Some of them need ingredients. Some of them need you to do tasks for them. Some of them want clothes or food or what have you. You're just doing different little tasks to help them. And along the way, you're learning recipes and you're learning things to sell at the market every single week to help you buy upgrades for your caravan to go to new places or decorations or what have you. And this is the ultimate cozy game because it is quest based, but nothing is time based, like, at all. You can get a quest and not pick it up for several in-game days, or you can go past a village where you had a quest, but you're like, maybe you don't want to do that quest activity at that time. You can come back to it and nobody gets mad. There's no rush. There's no time limits, nothing. Like, you can drag out this game as long as you want. You can play it as long as you want. Like, there's ultimately an end to it. but you could play it for endlessly. Like, you could just take as long as you want. You could take a break from quests and decide you're going to build up your caravan and you're only going to do market days and you're going to learn all the recipes and you're going to get all the clothes and you're going to do all of the things. Like, there's so many different avenues to play this game, and none of it is like stressful, none of it is hard, none of it is like time based. It's really a just fantastic cozy game, because the music is great, the townspeople are great, the animation is great, the townspeople are so cute. You're like a woodland creature, you can pick whatever you want. One of my gameplays, I was a deer, one I was a lizard. There's so much customizable things you can do for your caravan. You can go gothic, you can go like naturey, you can go pink, pastels, like whatever you want. There are so many different outfits for your characters that you can choose, and decorations for your caravan, and there's so many recipes to do. It's just an absolute delight, and I think any cozy gamer could find an aspect to this that they love. It's a 5 out of 5 star. I don't know that I will ever find a cozy game that I love as much as this one. The replayability is great, and I was just getting lost in it in a way that I have never done with another game. Putting the game down and thinking about it, or I was putting it down on my PC and then going and playing it on my iPad. Like, I was just so enamored with the world, with the characters, with the relaxing just vibe of the whole game, that I was just getting sucked into the world, and I just wanted to be there all the time. So I really would recommend this one the most. If you take anything from this video, pick up this game. It is free if you have Apple Arcade. I think it's like $13 USD on Steam for your PC. There's multiple ways to play it, and I just really recommend it. I think it's so good, and I want them to make more games, so please purchase this. That is it. I actually had about like 4 or 5 more books that I wanted to talk about, but my throat is starting to hurt and I talked for entirely too long. So I would love to talk down below again about anything that you have loved recently, how your life has been, anything. Let's talk down below. Don't forget to check out the Discord, where we have a nice little server for our community, including a book club that is open to all. Please consider subscribing if you are looking for media-related videos like this from me. I do vlogs, but I also do like media analysis and wrap-ups, the whole 9 yards. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.